What would you do if you woke up in a strange trunk on your wedding day? Well, let's talk about that in The Girl in the Trunk. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watch Your Past, and I'm here to talk to you about The Girl in the Trunk, which is coming to digital platforms on May 28th, 2024. It is a new thriller about a girl in the trunk and what she has to do to kind of overcome this very, very bad situation. My hot take is, look, I think you should probably pass on it. It was kind of between a watch later and a pass. I kind of ultimately went with a pass. I could be persuaded either way, but it has a lot of things I like. I love the opening. I love the kind of like way that it uses the trunk, and I also do like some of the banter, but there are some pretty bad effects in the film and some not great choices, and the ending is just it's okay. It's kind of so-so. So I think if this would have ended a little stronger, I would have been pushed over to a watch later. But ultimately, when this movie ended, I didn't feel as fulfilled as I was expecting to. So all that being said, I'm going to tell you a little about the film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into the ending. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the ending section. If you don't want to know what happens in this movie, and you might not, there are some surprises along the way. That would turn it off when I get to the ending. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. I'll let you know when I get to those spoilers. So in The Girl in the Trunk, you have Amanda who is kind of who finds herself returning a rental car in her wedding dress. Why is she in her wedding dress? Why is she returning a rental car? Well, you find out during the movie, but things don't really go the way that she planned because she gets kidnapped and thrown in a trunk, and now she has to figure out why she's in the trunk, who kidnapped her, and what she can do to survive. Is she able to? Does she become the girl outside of the trunk eventually? Well, you have to watch the movie to find out. So, all that being said, things I liked about the movie. The first, I loved the opening. I liked the way that this film opened. It had a nice kind of like sinister opening to it. The car pulls up and all you can see is from like underneath the car. So you don't get a ton of detail. You see, someone getting out of the car, someone getting into the car. You get like a sense of what's happening, but it's a nice kind of like way to give you an idea of what happened in this horror movie without like fully showing it to you. I thought it was a nice kind of little touch. Also, the opening call is really, really good. Amanda has her phone, and so she calls someone and she gets some more information there. And I loved the interplay there as well. So it was a really, really strong start. I liked the way that this film opened. I just didn't like the way that it kind of proceeded. So second thing I liked the trunk. I got a nice sense of claustrophobia in there. They do a lot with a very small space. Amanda moves around a little bit. She kind of has a couple options. She opens up a few things. And so they really do a good sense of both letting her use the full space without making it seem too big. Like it definitely feels tight. It definitely feels like there is a lot, that there is not much she can do, but they do kind of give her some options and kind of give you a good sense of what it is like to be in the trunk. The last thing I love the banter. Amanda talks mostly with her kidnapper, and I did like kind of the back and forth. They have a little kind of cat and mouse game in the car. It is interesting to see how they both kind of like try to come out on top, and it is fun to like hear their conversations. It is pretty well written, at least from those conversation parts. Some of the other characters aren't very well written, but I liked the back and forth between Amanda and her kidnapper. So, all that being said, things I didn't love as much. The first, there are some bad effects. There are some clear CG moments, mostly involving some animals and mostly involving some stuff that happens outside the trunk. Like I said, they have some pretty good effects for the trunk, but things that happen outside, things that that are, I don't know, difficult to film, those are all CG, and it definitely shows. The second thing I didn't love as much, there are some really poor choices in this film. I mean, it's a horror movie. You're going to get poor choices, but there were some frustratingly poor choices that happened here. And it does makes me annoyed when you've got like, theoretically this person's life is on the line and then they're making these really poor decisions. The third thing I didn't love as much, some of the writing was not great. Like I said, I liked the banter between Amanda and her kidnapper, but some of the writing with the external characters wasn't that good. It was okay, and it also kind of like led to some of the poor choices. So maybe that was part of it. Like maybe I didn't like the writing because these characters were making poor choices. But just know it's not thoroughly well written. There's some fun banter, but some of the other characters are not that great. And the last thing I didn't love the ending. It is not really a great ending. It feels a little unfulfilling. I'm gonna go into that later, but just note this didn't end like as strongly as I expected it to. So, all that being said, The Girl in the Trunk is coming to digital on May 28th, 2024. So you can check it out in the comfort of your own home if you want to. Like I said, I think ultimately you should pass on it. But you know what? If you do check it out, let me know what you thought. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I would love to hear it. And I'm going to go into the ending very quickly right now. So if you don't want to know what happened in this movie, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So like I said, Girl in the Trunk starts with someone, Amanda, in her wedding dress, returning a car, and getting kidnapped. And I love the way this started because you're viewing under the car, so you see Amanda get out in her like white high heels because she's in her wedding dress. She goes to try to like open the door to this rental place. It is locked, and then you see someone like get into the back of the car. You can't tell if Amanda noticed, but it doesn't seem like she did. And then Amanda comes back to the car, and then you hear a commotion. You don't see anything because you're under the car. And then you see like one of the white wedding shoes fall out of the car. So you get a good sense of like what happened without fully knowing what happened. And then later, Amanda wakes up in the trunk of the car. It's driving, and she has her phone. So she tries to dial 911, and the 911 operator picks up. And it's a kind of interesting, like sinister call. Like the 911 operator is like going through some of the motions, but you can tell there's something off with it. And eventually you find out that this is actually the kidnapper. He like hacked her phone and changed who the 911 operator would be. Apparently, in this world, you can do that. That seems tough to do, but he said he hacked her phone, got root access, and like changed some of the settings. So he changed her PIN, he changed the 911 number, things like that. But over time during this conversation, she realizes that this is an actual 911 operator. And I love the kind of like way you get that hint of it. It is very kind of sinister, some of the questions he's asking and some of the responses that he's giving. And eventually she realizes she's talking to her kidnapper. So one thing that was surprising is like she gets kidnapped in a rental car company. You would think that they would have cameras everywhere. Like it's a rental car company. They're going to want to like take pictures of the cars, monitor the cars, make sure they don't get stolen, and also probably check the like condition that they're in. So not a great plan for this person, but I guess he pulled it off because they're driving. And eventually, Amanda is trying to get around in the trunk and she pops the lockout so she can see a little bit. And after she popped the lockout, she's able to get the trunk open. And there's a car following her, and the trunk pops open, and there's a person in the back of the trunk. You would think that someone would have called it in. I don't think they do, though, because once the trunk pops open, her kidnapper sees this, pulls over, and that car, I guess, just speeds off, which was a little surprising. But hey, you know what? I guess maybe they didn't want any trouble. As the kidnapper is trying to get the trunk back on, another car pulls up. And this person, offers to help, gives him some like either ratchet straps or bungee cord to get the trunk back down. And that person is about to leave. And for some reason, Amanda didn't scream here. You would think that Amanda would like scream. This person was like a, bigger-ish person. Seems like they probably could have taken the kidnapper on. Amanda doesn't say anything, but eventually Amanda does scream. The person hears it, realizes there's someone in the trunk, doesn't put his guard up, and then boom, gets hit with a tire iron. And you would think that like, hey, if there's someone in a trunk, you would then be put on guard. I don't know. I guess maybe it happened too quickly. Then that person is like on the ground, and the kidnapper gets in the car, backs up into the person twice, like just pins him against his own car. And you would think Amanda's in the trunk. She has nothing like holding her in place. You would think a high-speed crash right into the back would probably injure her a lot. It doesn't seem to. It seems like she's fine, which was a little bit off. And also during this, the effects aren't great. Like the you see the camera like go get close to the person, and you can tell it's pretty much CG or some sort of poor or some sort of like not great camera effect to hit the actual person, and then some like little CG splashes of blood come up. Again, it doesn't look great. A lot of the stuff that happens outside of the trunk doesn't look that good. The trunk itself does look very good though. It's a nice kind of like creation and a nice way to like represent it. So her captor punishes her by like putting a tube into the back of the trunk and putting a scorpion in there. And so he wants her to open up, and like if she tells him a story about why she's in a wedding dress, he'll take the scorpion away, I guess. The scorpion is like crawling on her. It's clearly CG. It is tense, but it is a CG scorpion, so it doesn't look that great. But we do find out more about Amanda. She was getting married, and she realized that this wedding wasn't for her. It was really for her father. She wasn't really doing this for herself. She was doing it to make him happy. And so when she realized that, she decided to run. So she rented a car, drove to Houston to try to like get away. And that's when this whole mess happened. So after she tells the story, the kidnapper doesn't take the scorpion away. So Amanda has to improvise. And what a painful improvisation this is. The scorpion climbs up onto her face. It's on her like head. It doesn't sting her, but Amanda headbutts the top of the trunk, kills the scorpion, Very risky, but she seems to be able to do it, and at least she's free from the scorpion. Now, eventually, the kidnapper gives her the pin to the phone, so she's able to call some people. She calls her dad, and when she's talking to her dad, it doesn't seem like her dad really is that concerned about her. He's upset about the wedding. He's upset about her leaving. The people that he invited, that he's now embarrassed because his daughter didn't go through with the wedding, and also her fiance was a really nice guy, and this is going to devastate him. Doesn't seem that concerned about her. Now, eventually, she does tell him that he's kidnapped. And he seems a little bit concerned, but more in like the okay, what do we have to do to fix this? Like, how much do I have to pay? And apparently, the kidnapper wants $100,000 and to meet in a town called Plantersville. So it seems like her father's gonna be able to organize that. And in the meantime, she uses the pipe to take a picture of the kidnapper. She like gets that she can see through the pipe that the scorpion came in. And takes a picture of the kidnapper and sends it to her father. Now, I was like, why don't you just post this on social media? Like, post it on your Facebook or X or whatever social media you use now. Say, hey, this person kidnapped me in Houston. Does anyone know him? Probably go viral. Someone would theoretically, be able to recognize it, and maybe that would get the search started. Someone could send that to the police. She just sent it to her father. I think she wants to keep it quiet. She wants her father to just handle it, and so her father starts figuring out who this person is. Now, while Amanda was trying to get out of the trunk, she broke a taillight, and eventually the kidnapper gets pulled over, and a cop comes out, and she admonishes him for having a broken taillight. He says, I'm sorry, I'll get it fixed as soon as I can. She's about to let him off with a warning, and then Amanda's phone in the trunk goes off. And I was like, why aren't you just screaming? Like I think the cop had a gun pulled out during this. And like, if you scream, pretty sure that puts the cop on notice, probably able to take out the kidnapper. I feel like the cop would probably take out this kidnapper. But in any event, Amanda tries to stay quiet. She doesn't say anything. Her phone starts ringing. That like gets the cop to be concerned about what's going on. And the cop tries to open the trunk, but she puts her gun away. Like, seriously, why wouldn't you just have your gun up, handcuff the kidnapper, open the trunk? If it's nothing, oops, no foul. But if it is something, at least you have the kidnapper handcuffed. She puts her gun away, tries to pop open the trunk. Amanda pops it open. She tries to pop into the trunk. It pops open. Amanda's in there in her wedding dress. The cop is surprised, and in this moment, the kidnapper shoots her twice in the chest, and the cop falls over, and the kidnapper drives away. And it's like, yo, like again, cop, you should have subdued the kidnapper, then open the trunk. Also, the cop probably had some sort of like body cam, I assume. So this is not a great situation for the kidnapper to shoot her twice and then move on. Doesn't seem like he's going to get away with this. But in any event, he does. He's driving again. So her father calls and says, like, he figured out who this was from the picture. It was pretty easy. His name is Michael Belrose, and he worked at the rental company that Amanda rented the car from. So now our father knows who it is. He's coming for him, and Amanda feels pretty confident. And so earlier, they had started to play this game. It was like a 10-question game. The kidnapper said, I'll answer your questions truthfully. And so she didn't use them. She's now starting to use her questions. It's a fun little cat and mouse here because Amanda sometimes will like not ask a question and the kidnapper will offer information, or he'll say something different than what he told her before. He's like, well, during the game I'm truthful, but before that was all just banter. That was not real. And so he would tell her lies before, but during the game he would tell her like the actual truth. Now eventually she's whittling down the questions, and she doesn't use her last question, which kind of frustrates the kidnapper. Is like, don't you want to know like why I did this or anything like that? He's like, no, like I know you're just like a sad, angry person that goes on long, boring rides. The kidnapper, Michael, I guess I'll call him, was the person at the rental car company who, if someone would like return a car from a different location, he would then be tasked to drive the car to the original location and take like a Greyhound bus back. Basically, like the most boring job you could do. Like essentially, he explained it like he made just little enough to make it worth his time to go take the car back and take a Greyhound back. So not a glorious job, not a wonderful job. I don't know, it doesn't seem too bad, like if you like driving, but definitely wasn't for him. Now, eventually she does tell him, she knows his name. His name is Michael Belrose. That was the whole point of the game. If she could figure out his name, he would let her go. And the kidnapper is like, well, I would have loved to let you go, but that's not actually my name. And it turns out that Michael Belrose is the name that he used at the company, but that is not his actual name. His actual name is something else. He used a pseudonym. And so really, she couldn't have guessed it anyways. There was no way for her to guess it. So after she fails the game, Michael decides to introduce her to a friend. He dumps a rattlesnake in the trunk. And again, this is another CG rattlesnake. It's like climbing up onto her. It's like getting ready to bite. But then they hear a sound in the distance, and the rattlesnake, I guess, slithers under somewhere in the trunk. I assume the spare tire compartment. Again, it's all CG. It's not great, but the rattlesnake seems to go away. Then you see a helicopter landing near the car and someone getting out, and ta-da, it's her father. Her father's there. He has the money. You think, okay, everything's going to be fine. He gets in there, shows the kidnapper the money, and then her father pulls out a gun and says, I hope you enjoyed having it because you're not going to get it. And his daughter's like, just give him the money. He likes deals, he likes games. Just give him the money. We can go save me. And her father doesn't want to do that. Her father is holding him up with a gun, telling him what is going to happen. And the kidnapper says, or Michael says, speaking of deals, and he reaches for the sun shade or the sun visor, and her father pops him in the face. Michael falls over. Her father gets out, looks at what the kidnapper grabbed, and then goes to the back of the trunk and talks to Amanda. And he doesn't like let her out, which I was a little shocked at. Like, yo, just let your daughter out. He slips the thing that Michael was grabbing into the car, and it turns out it's the rental agreement. And now he's upset because like she rented this car. She apparently fled her wedding. He is again angry at her for like embarrassing him, embarrassing all of them. I was like, yo, your daughter is stuck in the trunk of a car. She was kidnapped. Like, just open the trunk, get her out. He's lecturing her. He's talking to her about how she has to make this right, how she has to like make it up to John while she's like still stuck in the trunk. And then she looks through the little peephole thing and sees that Michael is still alive and he starts moving. Her father is like surprised. Michael guns the car, gets moving, keeps driving. So Michael's driving down the street trying to get away. The helicopter starts pursuing, and the helicopter is gonna like, I guess, attack the car. Again, this was all CG too. It looked not great. It looked kind of like a older arcade video game. Like the helicopter would come and like try to hit the car. And I guess the helicopter was going to try to take out the car. I don't think that's a good idea. Like the car is low to the ground. Helicopters aren't good when they get really, really low to the ground, I think. And so the helicopter's trying to take out the car. The car is moving, and eventually the helicopter gets damaged and has to like go away. You see like some smoke coming out of it, and the helicopter like goes away. So it seems like rescue's not going to come. Amanda's gonna have to do this on her own, and so she ends up calling John. She starts apologizing, and then she says, "You know what? Like I'm not going to apologize to you. Like you do deserve a great girl, and it's not me. Like this was not for me. She's sorry that you got caught up in all this drama, all of her family drama, but he is not for her. It's not going to happen." So she kind of like wipes the slate clean. And then she realizes she has to take like matters into her own hand, and she opens this compartment that she opened earlier. It like is basically a direct compartment to the wheel, so she can open it up and like get access into the wheel. She grabs the baton from the police officer earlier and sticks it into the wheel, essentially trying to stop the car. And when she does this, apparently this hurts her arm. I don't know how it hurts her hand. I guess maybe the shock of hitting the wheel hurts her hand because she grabs her wrist. The car starts to swerve because I guess, it stopped the wheel, maybe it damaged the wheel. And then you see it like flip over. Again, not great effects. The camera does this in the trunk. The car flips over, and it seems like that might be the end. Well, she wakes up a little bit later. It's daylight. Her wrist is badly hurt, but she's alive. You can see the daylight streaming in. And one of the problems here is that it's Texas in the day. It's going to get really, really hot in that trunk. So she has to get out. And so she tries to reach for something above her, which, used to be below her. And you hear the rattlesnake rattling. And so she's like, I don't know if I can do this. But eventually she does anyways. She reaches for it, gets bitten by the rattlesnake, but she gets the thing that she was looking for. And it's a like car jack. She must have been reaching in the spare compartment to grab this car jack, and she uses the car jack to open up the trunk to like force it open. And I was like, okay, not a bad idea, but how is this person who apparently grew up super privileged? Her father was like an owner of a bank. She was never able to like do what she wanted. She was never able to be on her own. She always had to do what her father wanted. Like, how is she gonna know how to use a jack to change a tire? Like, I do a lot of my own maintenance and things like that. I'm not certain I know how to use a jack. Like I could figure it out if I had some time, but I've never used a jack before, and I don't know if I'd be able to do that in a trunk in the dark, like after getting bitten by a rattlesnake. She is able to do it. She uses the jack to pop the trunk open. So now she's free, but she's bitten by a rattlesnake. You think like, that's not good. I looked it up. Rattlesnake bites aren't always fatal. It's like, I don't know, 1 in 600, I think, are fatal, somewhere around there. But they're not good for you. They're going to lead to intense pain and possibly organ failure if they're not treated. So she has a rattlesnake bite. She is now out of the car at least. And so she goes around to the front to see if Michael's still there. He's not there, but his gun is. I don't know. He left the car, but he left his gun. So she grabs his gun and she grabs her father's cowboy hat. And she's about to leave when Michael shows up. They crash in like some cornfield, and so like from the cornfields, Michael shows up, and you can see his like the left side of his face is pretty badly hurt. He got shot, but it looked like it didn't like explode his face. It's pretty bad, but he's got some blood over here, but he's not dead. He has a gun. Amanda pulls her gun on him, but doesn't shoot. She like puts the gun down. I think she feels sorry for him. I don't know. Michael pulls out his gun and shoots like 4 times. Doesn't hit her. I don't know if he was trying to like wound her. I don't know if he was trying to like scare her or if his aim is all off because he got shot in the head. Who knows? But he hits the car 4 times, but doesn't hit her. He's out of bullets. Amanda gets the gun and like tells him, to get in the trunk. And he's like, "What?" And she like shoots at his feet. And like, "Get in the trunk." So she gets him in the trunk. He's like, "There's a rattlesnake in here." She's like, "Yeah." I mean, she's basically like, "Yeah." And she closes the trunk on him, locks him in there with the rattlesnake. We don't know if Michael survives, but he's in a trunk with a rattlesnake in the Texas sun. Not great. And Amanda starts walking. She looks like hell. She's in a wedding dress. She's got a snake bite. She has a hurt wrist. She has a gun. A cop eventually pulls up behind her, and wouldn't you know it, it's her father and the cop that was shot earlier. They both somehow linked up, and now they were looking for Amanda, and here she is. The cop says, "Is he alive?" And Amanda's like, "I left him back there." And she's like, "Is he loose?" She's like, "No." So the cop decides, you know what, we'll just let the backup get him. And they decide to drive off. I hope they're driving to a hospital because Amanda still has a rattlesnake bite. She didn't tell anyone yet. The venom is probably coursing through her veins. Not good for her. But they start driving. And as they start driving, the cop is like, "Are you okay, ma'am?" And Amanda's like, "Never been better." And it's miss because she said this a couple times when people would call her like ma'am. She would say it's miss. She wanted to emphasize that she was not married because she fled from her wedding. And so now she is, I guess, free from that. She is content. She is possibly to die because she has a lot of bad injuries. I hope they're going to a hospital. You don't really know where they're going, but they ride off, on the Texas highway, and that is The Girl in the Trunk. Like I said, I think you should ultimately pass on it. It has some things I liked about it. It had some things going for it, but I didn't really love the ending and some of the decisions. So it's coming to digital on May 28th, 2024. If you do check it out, though, let me know what you thought. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I would love to hear it. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.